Hello everyone, welcome to Aitareya Institute and our daily current affairs series. I am Aditya Singh, and in this series we will go beyond the headlines to understand the concepts, context and constitutional, geographical, economic, environment and even international dimensions of every important issue. So our objective is to connect current affairs with the static syllabus, previous year questions and the evolving demands of the UPSC Civil Services examination. So without any further delay, let's begin today's current affairs discussion. Okay, I hope you are perfectly fine and healthy. Okay, so now, first of all, the first news article is your PM Yashasvi. So Prime Minister Young Achievers Scholarship Award Scheme for a Vibrant India. Okay, so first of all, what it is, you have to understand what the scheme entails. So first of all, you need to understand that it is a comprehensive umbrella scholarship scheme. So it is a scholarship scheme which is given by your Department of Social Justice and Empowerment. So this department is essentially under Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, unifying the scholarship support and not just scholarship but also residential hostel infrastructure. For whom? For OBCs, which are above, other backward classes, your EBCs, economically backward classes, and DNTs. DNTs are your denotified tribes. These are your denotified tribes. Okay, so very one of the most primitive tribes which were denotified in the pre-independence era, and they were targeted as criminals for a long period of time. So yes, these are some of the most marginalized tribal communities. Okay, so the youth from all these things across India, they are provided such kind of scholarship support, and not just scholarship support, but also residential hostel infrastructure. Okay, so if we talk about the evolution, so hostel construction component originated in 1998 to 99 for OBC educational upliftment. This was revised in 2017-18, restructured into the present PM Yashasvi umbrella framework covering all the learning stages. Okay, who are the target beneficiaries? Students from other backward classes, your economically backward classes. Okay, and denotified nomadic and semi-nomadic tribes, which are strictly outside the creamy layer. Okay, so this is the idea. And they should not be within the creamy layer. Okay, so these are, why are we categorizing it? Because you need to support the poorest of the poor, the most marginalized section of the society. So it is a four-tiered scholarship. Four-tiered scholarship. It's a pre-metric scholarship. One is your pre-metric, before metric, and then post-metric, and then your top class education in school and top class education in college. So these are the four tiers that are covered under this scholarship scheme. Okay. Then a fact around disabilities inclusion. This is very important. Disability inclusion. How so? So a mandatory 5% seat reservation of for students with disability in all the PM Yashasvi hostels. So you can note it down here all. So see, whenever there is a general tendency in the preparation of civil services, especially in terms of prelims. So prelims, generally it is said that whenever you see an extreme word, then you are supposed to mark it as incorrect. But since everyone knows these kind of basic tricks, even the UPSC examiner knows these kind of tricks, that without using any brain, the aspirants are simply, marking the extreme words as incorrect. They know this. And this is why in the recent years, it has been witnessed that how the UPSC examiner is playing tricks with the aspirant. So deliberately they are including such extreme words which extreme words in the statement which are correct. Okay, for instance, here all is used. So if you have not read this scheme, uh, maybe guess that maybe not all Yashasvi or PM Yashasvi hostel would have a mandatory 5% seat reservation. So my idea here to tell you along with the discussion is that whenever during your preparation, whenever you see such kind of important statements which have extreme words, try to note them down separately. Okay, because anytime UPSC can play tricks on these kind of statements. Okay, so what you need to remember here is first what it is, what is the PM Yashasvi scheme all about, and rest of the things you can simply read it. And last thing is about disability inclusion. By the way, I'm sure you must be well aware about Rights of Persons with Disability Act 2016. Rights of Persons with Disability Act 2016. So under this, there is a specific section. I don't need to remember the section, which is section 32. You don't need to remember section 32. I'm just telling you that under that section of this act, all government run and government aided higher educational institutions in India must reserve at least 5% of their total admission seats for persons with benchmark disability. Okay, so 5% reservation for all persons with disabilities or persons with benchmark disabilities. What do you mean by benchmark? Benchmark disability, what it means is that minimum of 40% of specified disability. Specified disability. Okay, at least 40%, uh, 40% of the body parts must be disabled. Okay, so this is the scheme, and this is essentially for all the government run and all the government aided higher educational institutions. Okay, so what are the key legal provisions under this act? You can read about the key legal provisions like the eligibility criteria. So candidates require a valid benchmark disability certificate showing at least 40% impairment across the recognized categories. So now the recognized categories have been increased to 21. Okay, 21 under the 2016 Act. Okay, so you have 21 categories, and age relaxation is also provided. Okay, so under this act, a kind of age relaxation is provided. So eligible students receive an upper age relaxation of how many years? 5 years for admissions into your higher educational institutions. Okay, there is also, it also focuses on fee concessions. Fee concession. So many central and state universities, such as you have your Delhi University, extend major exemptions or waivers on tuition fees, examination fees, and even hostel fees for registered PWD candidates. Okay, scope extension. So, for instance, courts have increasingly directed compliance across both public as well as private sector, private professional educational bodies to ensure the 5% quota is strictly fulfilled rather than restricted to lower threshold. So these are some of the provisions under the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act. You must read this act, very important. A lot of the content for prelims is important in terms of this act. Along with that, a lot of these data and a lot of these statements you could utilize in your mains preparation, not only just paper 2 but also even in your paper 1 also, even in your ethics and even in your essays. So this is why I'm suggesting you to please read this act at least once, at least go through it, and if not, mugging up or memorizing it. So this is your PM Yashasvi scheme to strengthen the educational opportunities for OBC, EBC, and DNT students. So Prime Minister Young Achiever Scholarship Award for Vibrant India. It's an umbrella scheme which continues to provide scholarship from pre-metric, right from pre-metric to higher education. Okay, so this is by Minister of State for Social Justice and Empowerment. Okay, it aims to provide scholarships. Okay, so we have covered all this. Next thing, what are the key features? So differentiated hostel cost, and different. So differentiated. What does it mean? Differentiated. It would be different for different regions. Okay, not only for the different sections of the society, but also regional differentiation. For instance, northeastern region you will have a fees of 3.5 lakhs per seat. Himalayan regions 3.25 lakhs per seat, and rest of the India 3 lakh per seat. You don't need to remember these facts. It's okay. Just read this. Strict construction timeline. Hostels must be completed within 18 months from work or 2 years from first installments. No extensions are permitted. Okay. Construction permitted within ongoing state projects, engineering college, medical campuses, polytechnics, and saggy villages. No new land acquisitions are required. Performance linked fund release. Central grants dispersed in 52 is to 45 is to 5 ratio. Okay. So final 5% is withheld by the government until the physical occupation by the students is formally verified. So it acts as an incentive. It acts as an incentive to actually fulfill that criteria. So it is not just about outlay. It is not just about outlay. It is more about the outcome. So this is how you do outcome based budgeting. You must have read about this term, outcome based budgeting. Okay, so this you can only do so by these kind of incentives. So 0.25% of the budget reserved for independent third party quality inspections and impact evaluation. Now this is very important, impact evaluations. So generally what the government and the governance part uh, keeps itself is to keep focusing on the outlay. Okay, that the building is constructed. Now I don't actually care about what happens to the building. Okay, so here the government is incentivizing that the students are actually filling up the hostels. There is physical occupation by these students, by the OBCs, by the EBCs, by the DNT students. That gets formally verified, then only the government will release that 5% extra. Okay, so this acts as a very strong incentives. Private sector works on incentives. The performance, the efficiency of private sector works on incentives, and this is how the government is trying to tap into the potential of the private sector. Okay, so you can use this in your mains answers. How to incentivize the private sector to perform better. Okay, so this is how this is a good model of exhibiting a public-private partnership. Okay. Moving forward, the next important news article is that, one second. Yes, the next important news article is that the Bharat 6G Alliance, so B6GA, India's 6G ecosystem builder. So first of all, what it is? It is an industry-led government facilitated collaborative platform. Now, why is it established? It is established to position India as a global leader position India as a global leader in 6G telecommunications, bringing together our domestic and international stakeholders for the purpose of research, intellectual property creation, and standard setting. So first thing that you need to remember is what is the purpose of this alliance, and this alliance between the different nations, or is this alliance between domestic stakeholders, whatever domestic stakeholders it can be, or along with the international stakeholders. So it is a accumulation of both. So if we talk about the recent developments, has this been in news? So B6GA expanded its membership to 90 organizations with the nodal support from the Department of Telecom, which is under Ministry of Communications. Okay, so this is led by Ministry of Communications. So global strategic partners. So now various MOUs have been signed with Next G Alliance. You have 6G IA, 6G Forum, XGMF Japan, 6G Brazil, and European Space Agency. So various multiple stakeholders across the globe have taken part in it. ITU contribution, International Telecommunication Union contribution. So successfully embedded the ubiquitous connectivity as a core 6G global requirement under the IMT 2030 framework as at the International Telecommunication Union. Okay. terahertz terahertz test bed. So coordinates the 6G terahertz test bed at Sameer, Kolkata for ultra high line of sight communication under the Telecom Technology Development Fund (TTDF). Okay, so these are the things you can read about it. Highly unlikely that it is going to be asked. But moving further, what you also need to remember is 5G, है ना? 5G. So 5G is the current mobile network standard. Now 5G delivers speeds up to 20 Gbps and with a latency of 1 millisecond. This is the latency under 5G. Very, very less latency and very, very high speed. 20 Gbps. And why? To connect the people and your basic IoT. IoT, very, very, this has been asked, what is IoT? In the prelims, Internet of Things. So this kind of speed and this less latency is the gap, the time period, the lag. So this less latency allows you to function with IoT effectively. In contrast, what will 6G entail? So 6G is a future standard expected by the year around 2030. Now this will leverage the artificial intelligence and the terahertz spectrum. The terahertz spectrum will be leveraged and to deliver speed will be as high as 1 Tbps. Can you imagine the speed 1 Tbps? Okay, most of the people are not even aware or not able to grasp how much is 20 Gbps. And this is very, very high speed for any normal use, for any normal use, even commercial uses. But 6G would use speeds that you cannot even fathom of. So it is 1 Tbps. So this is how you will be effectively able to use the artificial intelligence. Okay. And if we talk about latency, so here in 5G it was 1 millisecond, which is very, very less. But here it will be in sub millisecond. Sub millisecond latency, very, very almost negligible latency that human can find out. Okay, so 6G is very, very high speed internet connectivity will be provided, which would effectively utilize your artificial intelligence and terahertz spectrum. Okay, so what are the key functions of B6GA? Okay, so National Spectrum Roadmaps analyzes high frequency spectrum requirements and advises the DOT, Department of Telecommunication, on spectrum planning, policy frameworks, and deployment timelines as to when should the 6G be effectively deployed. So all this will be undertaken by B6GA. Okay, so entire national spectrum roadmaps will be created under B6GA. So it will facilitate the research and development into advanced system on chips, multi-chip modules, and even IoT devices via the TDIP scheme, sponsoring startups and 3GPP and 1M 2M. Okay, 1M 2M. So all this is associated with the hardware innovation. Supply chain resilience. So partners with Finland's 6G flagship to establish secure, trusted, and cross-border supply chains and co-development open 6G standards. So these are some of the key functions that you can read about. Okay, just go through it, just read about this. No need to learn all this. Okay, so How is this such a strategic significance? So it moves India from a technology adopter to global standards leader. Now we are setting the global standards for 6G through the International Telecommunication Union and the 3GPP contributions. So it links the IIT research with the industry to commercialize the Indian telecom technologies. It will strengthen the cyber security. Okay, so even in the cyber security answer, please try to include B6GA. Okay, reduce imports and boost the domestic manufacturing. Now this directly advances India's Atmanirbhar Bharat vision in the critical telecom sector for the next decade. Okay, all these are this is how this V6GA plays a very strategic significance. So you can read more about this. Moving ahead. So next important news article is the internet shutdowns which are happening in India. What is the legal framework? What are the safeguards? So first down, an intentional state-ordered disruption. State-ordered disruption of telecommunication or digital communications, ranging from throttling bandwidth and blocking the social platforms to complete the network blackouts within a specific geography. As you must be well aware of the CJP protests that are happening in Jantar Mantar. I've been to such protests, and there the internet was not allowed. Okay, so this is how the specific geography, the internet was not allowed near the Jantar Mantar, even at CP. Okay. In that specific geography, internet is not allowed. Okay, if you have ever been to, please try to go to the protest site. It is very important for you to see how effectively people are asserting their rights. People are asking for accountability. Accountability is a very important thing for any state, so that the state does not turn out to be a dictator. Okay, so this is why I would also advise from a personal end, not in terms of any faculty as such, but as a friend, as a citizen, I would advise and suggest you to please do visit if you have time. Take it. So context is that mobile internet shutdowns in central Delhi during CJP's Chalo Sansad protest, that raised concerns over use of shutdown powers under which act? The Telecom Act of 2023. Very, very important act from the UPSC point of view. Please do remember this act, Telecommunications Act. So governing statute is section this of the Telecom Act. You don't need to remember the section. And the Telecom Temporary Suspension of Services Rule 2024. So constitutional rights which are affected because of internet shutdown. Now this becomes extremely important. What are the rights that are impacted? First is your freedom of speech gets curtailed. And a 19(1)(a), 19 clause 1 subclause A, and 19 clause 1 subclause G, which is right to trade, which is right to profession, and Article 21, right to life and personal liberty. So you have to remember this, very important from the point of view of prelims, and also you can use this fact in your mains answers. So what is the threshold mandate? Suspensions can only be ordered during a proven public emergency or to protect the public safety. A peaceful protest, see here, the term is peaceful protest does not meet the statutory threshold. Strict temporal limit. What is the time limit? No single suspension order may remain in force for more than 15 days. So 15 days is the maximum period for which you can shut down the internet. And if the protest is peaceful, that does not qualify the criteria to impose an internet shutdown in that area. Okay. Along with that, indefinite suspensions are legally invalid. Okay, so this is how what is happening is now you are the you have to pass the judgment whether the thresholds for imposing the internet shutdowns have been met, or is it a kind of a dictatorship that is happening. Okay, dictatorship would be an extremely strong word to use, but there has been certain elements of it. There has been elements of pushing the state power beyond what it is expected of, and not keeping the ministers accountable for their actions or inactions. Okay. Moving forward, what are the guidelines? So you can use this case Anuradha Bhasin versus Union of India. So this was in 2020. You can use this judgment while writing your mains. Highly unlikely that in prelims this judgment will be asked, but for mains point of view, you can always use it. So Supreme Court recognized internet access is a fundamental right under which article 19(1)(a) and 19(1)(b). G. So you have to remember this. Okay, declared indefinite shutdowns unconstitutional. So in prelims, you just have to remember this, that it is a fundamental right under Article 19, and that is it. So it mandated the proportionality test. What is proportionality test? Complete suspensions only as an unavoidable last resort. So only and only when this is a last resort, then only, you know. So effectively, what it is trying to say is when the impact, is major, then only proportional to that impact you can impose the internet shutdown. It should not be that it is peaceful protest. Still the consequences of the peaceful protest are very high. You have completely blocked the internet usage across Delhi. Now that should not happen. That is going to affect not just the protesters, but also various other people who are associated with that reason. So that is very important. Okay, so that is why it comes into play, the proportionality test. The proportionality test. So what is the procedural requirements? Written, reasoned orders from the competent authority. Okay, you need written orders, reasoned orders from the competent authority. Specify the targeted cell sites rather than blanket regional blackouts. So this is why you cannot impose a blanket ban on the internet across Delhi. Okay, so this is why specific regions like your Jantar Mantar are targeted. Okay, and not entire Delhi. Mandatory review committee must be created. And now, what is mandatory review committee? It will have an oversight within the statutory timelines to evaluate necessity and proportionality. So proportionality test is very important. Whether they are exceeding their limits or not. That could be done. That would be done only by the mandatory review committee, and that too within the stipulated time period of 15 days. Without after 15 days, you cannot keep on imposing the internet shutdown indefinitely. Next is your judicial reviewability. So citizens retain the right to challenge the orders in high courts under Article 226 or the Supreme Court under Article 32 on the grounds of procedural illegality or arbitrariness. Okay, so if you are imposing any such blackout, any such shutdown of internet, then that cannot be arbitrary on the whims and fancies of the bureaucrat or the minister. There needs to be a proper procedure which is followed in order for you to undertake any such internet shutdown. Okay, so all in all, it is trying to say that due process of law. And if you have not heard of it, please read Lakshmikant. Due process of law must be followed and not just procedure established by law. Okay, so due process must be followed, and all of this is the is comes under the writ jurisdiction, writ jurisdiction of the Supreme Court and the High Court. Okay, so whenever your fundamental rights are breached, whenever your fundamental rights are breached, you can directly go towards either your High Court or your Supreme Court, and High Court under Article 226 and Supreme Court under Article 32. Not from the bottom, but directly from the top, because these two institutions, your Supreme Court, your higher judiciary a guarantor is a guarantor of the fundamental rights of the citizens. Guarantor of the fundamental rights of the citizen. Please include this in your mains answer. Very, very easy statements to remember, but very effective. Okay. From prelims point of view, you just need to remember the article number as well. This is important article. I would not generally advise students or aspirants to learn the article numbers, but these two article numbers are also very important, and obviously your article 19 is important, that is a fundamental right. So along with fundamental right, this is how your fundamental right gets connected to your judiciary, your article 226 and article 32. This is why article 32 is also referred as a golden bridge. Okay, golden bridge between the part of fundamental right and that of the judiciary. So state authorities cannot invoke the repealed Indian Telegraph Act of 1885 to bypass the stricter 2024 framework safeguard. So please, this has been the case many a times. You have seen that state using this act, which is repealed, which is already repealed. So you cannot. That is completely illegal. That is unconstitutional because this act is already repealed. Okay. So this is all about your internet shutdown. Next is a very important mission Golden Spice, transforming Lakadong turmeric. This has been in news for quite some time. Again, back in news because of the launch of the mission Golden Spice. So first of all, what it is. So it is officially titled the Integrated Lakadong Turmeric Value Chain Enhancement Project. It is worth 175 crores, 5 years from 2025 to 30. Phased initiative to transform Meghalaya's GI tagged Lakadong turmeric into a globally competitive brand. Okay, you don't need to remember the amount or even the year. Here, no need. You just need to remember which state the GI tag belongs to, the geographical information tag. So, in my interview experience, there was a question since my optional was geography. So, and question on GI tag was asked. Okay, so this is an umbrella framework. This is part of the center's unlock the economic potential for India's Northeast USP initiative under the Ashtalakshmi strategy, anchored by M. Donor, okay, Department of Northeastern Region, and the Northeastern Council. Okay, so this you can this is important. This is the second thing that you have to remember. And this Ashtalakshmi strategy, not only from the point of view of prelims, but also from the point of view of mains, you have to remember the Ashtalakshmi strategy, or this is also referred as the growth model for Northeast India. So it is Government of India's integrated development framework for the 8 northeastern states. This is why the term Ashtalakshmi. So 8 northeastern states, all these northeastern states like your Arunachal Pradesh, you have your Assam, you have your Meghalaya, you have your Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura, and one more is your Sikkim. Do not forget Sikkim is also a part of Northeast. Okay, so Ashtalakshmi. Okay, so this is named so this is the Ashtalakshmi strategy. Okay, this is named after the 8 manifestations of goddess Lakshmi. Okay, I'm sure you must be well aware of the goddess Lakshmi. So it seeks to transform the region from remote security. Okay, so remote security is another aspect that is addressed upon. Okay, so from a remote security frontier into India's economic and strategic gateway to Southeast Asia. Okay, so what it all entails is also very important. Okay, so what it entails is that the idea is to transform the region from a remote security frontier into India's economic and strategic gateway to Southeast Asia. Please include this point in your main answers. Very, very important. So it is not just a remote security or a frontier, okay, but a gateway to Southeast Asia. So the strategy is executed through several interconnected focus areas from infrastructure and connectivity, major investments in highways, you have your expanding railway networks to your hill states, you have your airports that are getting developed. A very important scheme for developing airports in such small areas, है in such unconnected areas is your Udan scheme. Very, very important. Udan scheme. And along with the Udan scheme, there's one more important famous scheme, which is Northeast 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 gas grid to bridge the physical and logistical gaps. So all these schemes are being run. Moreover, there is also a focus on Act East policy. Act East policy must include it, and must include it in your answers for mains. So this leveraging what you need is leveraging the region's geographical proximity to the ASEAN countries. Now you are leveraging the proximity to the geographical proximity to the ASEAN countries for what? For the purpose of border trade and international integration. Moreover, there's also an aspect of socio-economic development. So utilizing funds like under you have your PM Divine. You have to read about this scheme, PM Divine. Okay, so PM Divine scheme funds under the scheme to ensure that 100% tap water coverage. You have your housing, you have your digital connectivity across the remote villages. Okay, moreover, the focus should also be on sustainable agriculture and local ecosystems. So what you need is boosting the state specific products, state specific product. Like in this case, you have your Meghalaya's Lakadong turmeric. Under which scheme? Under which mission? Mission Golden Spice. Moreover, you can also encourage Sikkim's organic farming or very famous Nagaland's Nagaland's coffee mission. And this is generally not talked about it. I am giving you a value addition point. Nagaland's coffee mission. So this is all what it entails under the Asht Lakshmi strategy. Okay. And Sikkim's organic farming is obviously very famous. Now, core aim is what is the core aim? Doubling the turmeric farmers' earning from 30 to 40 per kg to around 80 kg, rupees 80 per kg by 2030. So, overcoming the post-harvest losses and establishing the Lakadong turmeric as a flagship export, where in the US, in the EU, Japan, and the Gulf countries. So, these are certain objectives. Moreover, cultivation scaling. So expanding the land under the Lakadong turmeric from 2,500 hectares to 7,000 hectares, targeting at an annual yield of 49,400 metric tons by 2030. You don't need to memorize this. You just need to remember that you are scaling up the cultivation, and your idea is to double the farmers income. That is it. Okay. This is multi-agency funding. You have 50% is associated with M donor, and Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare is associated with 33%, and Government of Meghalaya 16%. So majority of the fund and support will be coming from union, and rest only 16.9% from the state of Meghalaya. So yes, the union government is encouraging the transformation of the Lakadong turmeric. Okay, so that overall export of this turmeric could rise up, and this is a very positive move, if I could say this. So yes, this is certainly a growth model to look for in developing this entire region, the GI tag. Okay, so these are the points that you have to remember. These 2 points, and next all these rest of the points you just have to read. But these are the points that you must remember. Very important points I'm mentioning you. Very important value addition point, like your Nagaland's coffee mission. Okay, all this is very important. Now, what are the key features and women-led development? So, landmark features, if we talk about largest extraction facility, largest extraction facility, okay, establishes the Northeast largest integrated organic processing and curcumin extraction plant. Okay, curcumin extraction plant in Meghalaya, shifting from raw exports to high value processed products. So this is very important. We don't need to focus just on exporting the raw exports. No, that should not be the idea. How will your farmers gain profitably? Only when the produce is first processed. This processing, and not just basic processing, high value processing. And this is the high value processing which provides the further value addition to the produce. This value addition further enhances the profits. Okay, so first you need to study the market of, let's say, US, let's say EU or Japan, and then according to their need, process the raw products and process the curcumin or process the turmeric into the high value processed products which are needed in that market. And this is where you'll be able to effectively profit the industrial areas, the industrial, the processing industries, along with profiting the farmers and doubling the farmers' income in the turmeric sector. So yes, you have a phased roadmap. So in first phase, the focus is on infrastructure, cold chains processing, and phase two on commercial expansion, branding, and export scaling. So do not underestimate the significance of branding. This is one of the major challenge that Indian products are facing, that they don't have a branding, they don't have this commercial expansion, and they are unable to scale the export. All these points, the phase two is extremely important. But not to say that phase one is not important. We are not even have optimally worked on phase one. So first and foremost thing is you need to focus on the infrastructure, your cold chains and processing. This is the first phase. Then only you should move to phase two, and both phases are extremely important. Okay. One unique point is through blockchain, you can focus upon traceability. Okay, so digital authentication and blockchain tools to safeguard the GI status and prevent unauthorized regional replication. Okay, so this could be effectively done through blockchain tools. Okay, moving towards the women aspect, the women-led economic development. Okay, so this directly impacts over 17,500 farming households across West and East Jaintia Hills. Women account for 99% for processing participation, making the Mission Golden Spice one of the India's most women-centric agricultural value interventions. Okay, it creates additional 3,000 jobs in processing, in packaging, logistics, and even export facilitation across the region. So these facts will not be asked in your prelims. These facts will not be asked in your prelims. This fact, this data you can use in mains. Very, very good data. Okay? I'm sure with each and every session you're also trying to have a knack as to how which exactly line is important for which portion prelims, and which line you can effectively utilize as a value added material in your mains. So keep on extracting such good information, data, statistics which could enhance your answer writing in mains. Okay, and before all this, the first step is very important, that you should write an answer. And you can even show it to me if you have, just write one or two answers and just show it to me. And if you have any doubt regarding anything, regarding answer writing structure, mapping, anything that you have a doubt on, and we are going to mentor it effectively. We are going to create a detailed framework provided to you, so that if you are able to deal with all your challenges in the civil services examination effectively. Okay, so this was it. We have covered the most important news article. The number is not high, but each and every topic we are dealing it with an optimum amount of depth, not too much, not too less, just the optimum amount. And exceptionally I'm covering the entire news, but I'm exactly telling you from where all the questions could be asked, and not just limited to the news article, but also linking it with the static information, and also analyzing how the previous year questions have been asked and how it is linking it with current affairs, how the questions have been framed. We are also helping you analyze the examiner's mindset. And please trust me on this. I have qualified enough number of prelims to help you understand this. Okay. So I hope you liked today's session. If you have any doubts regarding any of the topics that we have discussed so far, or any of the topic that you want me to discuss upon in a separate video, then please do mention it in the comment section itself. Okay. I hope you liked today's session. It was in-depth analysis from the point of view of prelims, mains, and even interview. Okay. So see you in the next session. Okay then. Thank you.